Hi, sweeties. How are you doing? Welcome to Naya Sim, and thank you, or Simnanya, and thank you all so much for all the love and support. So today we'll be talking something very important, and it's about French government and Westerners always saying that Africa is a third world country, and a lot of people were like, "You all keep calling Africa third world country when Africa is the one feeding most of you." And you all already know that most Westerners are being fed by Africa. Like, they come, they steal from Africa, and they run away. And the problem that all these are happening is because we do not have great leaders. Our leaders are not good enough. They are for the Westerners too, and they are not woke too. So they all, if you look around most of the countries in Africa that are going through so many crises, genocide, and all that. They are the countries that have the most resources and all that. They go around, steal all of them, and turn back to call you third world country when they are feeding off you. They are feeding off you. And so many countries in Africa are paying tax to French government till this very moment after their colonial and all that. And how can former French colonies are still? How can Africans still be paying colonial taxes till this very moment, living off Africa? You know what? Let's get into this video.
Africa is third world. Africa is third world. Yet our wealth built you.
Do you guys know that 14 African countries still pay a colonial tax to France? 14 African countries still pay a tax for being colonized by the French. And you know how much that tax is? $500 billion a year taken from 14 African countries by the freaking French. And the reason that they take this money is because they built infrastructure and buildings and the resources that they brought to Africa. It's payback for the colonization that they did. We brought resources to you, we brought infrastructure to you, we brought civilization to you, so now you have to pay us back for it. If any of these African nations refuse to do it, they mysteriously get a coup in their government and militant groups pop up everywhere. They had to sign a pact for this. And do you want to know what's included in that pact? Number one, the reason that the pact exists is to impose the colonial tax so that the African countries can pay back for the infrastructure that was brought to them from the French colonization. And then this is the part that pisses me off to no end. The reason that they get that $500 billion a year from these African countries is because they force these African countries to deposit their bank reserves into the French ministry, and the French government invests those funds into the French market, and only they know the return of whatever amount comes back as returns. And it's estimated that it's $500 billion, and they don't give any of that money back to these African countries. And because the money is in banks that are controlled by the French, these African countries that deposited their monies into these French banks have to ask the French government for permission to take their money out. And once they take their money out, it is considered a loan that they have to pay interest on. And on top of that, they can only buy their military equipment from France. They have to allow French presence in their country, and the French military can invade these countries at any point if they feel that the French interest in these countries is threatened at all. And this part, all minerals available and yet to be discovered, France has the first rights of refusal in these 14 countries. And all contracts, public or private, French companies have the first rights of refusal. The French government is considered one of the wealthiest in the world, because they built their wealth on the backs of African countries and forced this colonial tax where they're getting $500 billion a year for nothing other than colonizing these countries. Every day I understand what James Baldwin meant when he said that to be a person of color in this country is to be in a constant state of rage, but I'm taking it a step further and saying to be African in this world is to be in a constant state of rage, because for centuries our people were taken, our people were stolen, our people were pillaged, our people were demolished, and our people were used as slaves, and our people were just brutalized all over the world. And even in 2023, we are still paying the price of Western colonization.
Africa is third world. Africa is third world. Yet our wealth built you.
So I wanted to stitch a video that was already stitched, expanding upon this kind of concept, in that there are so many countries and first world countries and colonialized powers that don't understand that the whole first world versus third world conversation and debate doesn't make any sense. In that, for example, I live in the country of Canada, and Canada is considered a first world country. However, there are places in Canada that are heavily populated, like major cities, that are considered like third world countries, and it's crazy the amount of like money and stuff gets taken from these types of places. In that, in some of the northern territories, some of which right now are on fire, but in some of these northern territories, like, so Canada's made up of the provinces and then the territories. In the territories, there's a lot of money that comes out of the territories, but does not go back into the territories. In that, the Canadian federal government and other entities get a lot of money from diamonds, gold, silver, lots of different mining of natural resources and natural things of the earth from the territories. But yet, there are places in the territories that have little to no electricity, have literally the conceptualization of 30 days of night, like full months of just no light at all. And they're like icy tundras, and people are living in third world country levels of poverty, and yet the federal government of Canada like completely ignores these people, because most of the people that are up there are Indigenous people. They're Inuit people and other Indigenous groups, so they don't have to give them money and supplies and things. If you go and look through TikTok and you try and find it, there are people who live up in the territories who pay like $100 for a 12-pack of like soda, and not even good soda at that. Like, it's not like, oh, premium high brand Coca-Cola or like Pepsi or like the rare shit that we get sometimes down here. No, I'm talking like ginger ale, like normal ginger ale, not like specialty ginger ale. And they pay like $75 to $100 because that's the scarcity of literally everything up there. And yeah, the reason I wanted to stitch with this is because it's crazy the amount of first world countries that benefit off of third world country conditions from all over the place. Africa's a huge portion of that, and Indigenous communities are a huge part of that within North America and even Central America. It's bananas the amount of colonial powers that benefit financially off of third world country peoples, and people that live in places where they don't have clean drinking water, basic medical care, and like literally the foundational human rights. So definitely check out the original Stitch and the original person's video, because they're great. And yeah, fuck all the colonial powers.
I just shared a video talking about this issue, and I'm making my own video to kind of amplify the message and the voices. So basically, it turns out the French government, the reason why he is now asking for a ceasefire is because he doesn't want the world to now start focusing on what the French government are doing to the African countries, and how they're stealing their money and their natural resources. The French government controls 14 African countries, and basically force them to pay taxes to the French government, which makes these African countries go bankrupt. And on top of that, they're stealing their natural resources. Hold on. All 14 of these African countries together pay a colonial tax to France, which amounts to $500 billion. You heard that right. $500 billion to France, to the French government. Can you believe that? And basically they take 85% of these countries' money, and 85%. You're taking 85% every year from these countries. What is left for them to provide for themselves and for their people? What? And on top of that, France has basically taken their own military troops to each of these countries to control their military. So, and to not just control them, to train them, to whatever they need, the French government has a hold on their military. So if any coup was to happen, if anybody wants to fight the French government, they already have their military in all these countries. So no one can fight them because they have their people there. Imagine. Also, they have countries like Niger that has so many natural resources, especially uranium, and France is taking 95% of their natural resource. 95%. And the 5% that is left, the country takes that. They're like, oh, we're just gonna give you 5%. You don't need that much. Guys, look, oh my God. And then the whole world is like, oh, why are these African people fighting each other? Why are they so evil to each other? Why are they killing each other? This is the reason. France is controlling these people. America and Britain is also doing it to the other African countries as well. This is what they're doing to the African people. And whenever a leader does not want to follow them and want to cut ties with these colonial powers, they stage a coup. They either kill the leader and replace the leader into someone that would oblige and do what they want, or they will cause genocides to happen so that these leaders will be afraid to go against them. This is what we are dealing with in Africa. And they're blaming us. They're blaming guys, we need to start talking more about our people and everything else happening in this world. This is outrageous. And the French government, your days are also numbered. The French government, the reason why he is now asking for a ceasefire is because he doesn't want...
Watch this video. Watch this video I stitched. Watch this video. The way I hate France. France, when I catch you, 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 I hate that country and I hate that government. They are so evil. And I said this in a video before, and I've said it multiple times. I was born in Cameroon, a country colonized by France. My entire life has been touched by the French government and what they have stolen from Cameroonians. Seeing this video and this article and just like always being reminded of like, I know they steal so much, 95% of the resources. Oh my God. It's actually crazy because I was just listening to a podcast. My favorite podcast these days, Revolutionary Left Radio. They're like the only people right now who are just saying shit for what it is and calling for total liberation, the end to occupation, end to settler colonialism, end to neocolonialism. Like, they are really about it, okay? They are about that shit. So I love them. And I was literally just listening this morning. I was like, oh, I have to finally listen to this episode about AFRICOM, what it is. Because I've always heard it. My dad always talked about it. My dad, like, oh my God, you think I hate France. The way my dad hates France. And I understand, like, this is a man who has worked all over Africa. And he has seen, like, so many civil wars, like been directly in the countries involved in civil wars. Like, he has seen the devastating effects of colonialism on different African countries all over. So the way he talks about European countries, but especially France, because we're Cameroonian, damn. So I sent him this podcast episode this morning, actually, and I was like, we need to talk about this. But you guys need to listen to it too, because they have two guys there who are a part of Black Action for Peace. I probably got that wrong. But they're BAP, pretty well-known organization, and they're definitely all about like Pan-Africanism and just like Black people everywhere struggling towards liberation together. And they did a lot of education on this episode about what AFRICOM is. I didn't know what it was. It's basically the United States and other Western countries, you know, they like get together in their little huddle and they're like, we're going to station our militaries here and be involved in this region. And they have one in Latin America, they have one in the Middle East, like they have it everywhere. That is how their imperialistic agenda is achieved, right? By putting their military everywhere. And it was basically just, the episode did a lot of talking about how through the years, since like 1950s, there have been like so many coups, and like the majority of them have been backed by these European countries and America. Like the worst shit has happened. I believe, you know, we've all been hearing about the Congo recently, and one of the most heartbreaking things that I learned in this episode was about Patrice Lumumba, who was former president of the Democratic Republic of the Congo. And he was like all about kicking out these European powers and keeping the resources of the Congo for Congo, right? Do you know what they did to him? They assassinated him and dissolved his body in acid. Like, anyone who is trying to keep Africa's resources for themselves, they ruthlessly exterminate, ruthlessly. And then they install like puppet leaders to govern and, you know, take the crumbs that, you know, France or America will give to them. As long as they're well off, it doesn't matter like how fucked the rest of their citizens are. It's absolutely crazy. It's so crazy. I need you guys to listen to this episode. I need you all to watch the video that this is stitched with. Like, France, when I catch you, France, when I catch you. Ooh, that country has the biggest boatload of karma coming for it. Like, they don't do anything. All they do is steal from Haiti and every African country. 500 billion, to the tune of like almost 500 billion a year. They are just stealing. Like, it's just so crazy to me that people are always calling like Black people around the world lazy. I'm like, you steal everything. You steal everything from Black people around the world. Who's the fucking lazy one? Ooh, France. That's what I'm telling you. Like, when I become supreme dictator of the world, literally my first order of business is to wipe France off the map. France is gone. And only the pastries shall remain. I have said this so many times. France, you better hope that I'm never the supreme dictator of the world, because you will be eliminated ASAP. Not even kidding. Like, you are my first order of business. I'm getting rid of you. Ooh, I hate that country. I hate that country so bad, man. I hate that country so bad. Okay, I need to stop. My heart is literally like, but this is what we're talking about. Like, colonialism has not ended. Slavery has not ended. Africa is so rich in resources, and countries like France are just fucking leeching it dry. What the fuck are the people supposed to do? What are they supposed to do? France just steals. You guys need to understand this. Let me post the screenshot of the podcast episode that you need to listen to. Okay, this is the one. Make sure you go listen to this. Excellent so far. With Nicholas Richard Thompson and Tunde Osazua. Amazing. You need to listen to it. It's so good. Yeah. What we need to do is make sure that our eyes are open about these colonial powers. Like, we need to never close our eyes and our ears and our hearts anymore. Like, we cannot ignore the suffering of people who are subject to neocolonialism. And now we know how interconnected it is. all around the world. Like, we are all struggling towards liberation from these imperialist, colonialist powers together. So a win for Palestine is a win for the Congo, is a win for us in the US. We are all connected. We're all connected. So please do your research. Make sure that you are learning about these different issues. Please listen to this podcast episode. They break it down in such an approachable way. I didn't know about AFRICOM. Now I do. And it all needs to burn down to the ground. So really encourage you to do your research, do some more reading, and learn about these African leaders. Gaddafi, he wanted all of Africa to be united, I think using one currency or whatever. And of course that wasn't going to work for, France and the US and all that. So what did they do? Paint him as a big bad and get rid of him. Like, everything we know, you need to question everything the United States government tells you, especially when it comes to Africa and these people who they want to remove and paint as the bad guys. Question everything. More often than not, they just want to get rid of them so that they can exploit their country and its natural resources. All right? The United States never does anything good. Just know that, okay? So question everything. Listen to our podcast episode. Let me know your thoughts.
So this is all I got from the stitches, and sincerely speaking, we all already know this. It's not like it's a new thing and all that. But yeah, it is all coming to light and people are beginning to understand, because before, people never understood all this. I mean, this was one of the major reasons Niger decided to break out from France, and that is one of the best things that happened to them. And the fact that they keep telling you that Africa is the third world country, it is because we have stupid and useless leaders, people that are in for the Westerners, because most of the Westerners that are leeching off Africans are prospering so much because African leaders allowed it. If African leaders decide not to allow it, trust me, this will reduce to the barest minimum. Just look at all the countries you heard that have, great mineral resources and all that. Trust me, they are all in crisis. Anywhere that something is being discovered, especially by the Westerner, there is crisis there. And then if you look around, you find out that people are already fighting for their freedom, because this is what they have been living for, this is what they have been doing for how many years. And I mean, they say slavery is all over, but it is not. It is not all over. It is still all there, and it is all in our eyes, So the earlier the leaders, African leaders, wake up, the better for us. You all see everything going on. There are so many genocide. I think a win for Congo is a win for all. A win for Sudan is a win for us, and Palestine and all that. So everybody's all out, speaking up and fighting. You can imagine how many countries in Africa that were colonized by friends that still pay tax to this very moment. Like, who does that? Who does that? And when it really also takes a very strong person to be a president, because if you are not for them, they all look for a way to make your time in the office very miserable and disrupt. They will disrupt everything. So they keep telling us Africa is the third world country, but Africa is the one feeding most of the Westerners. Really, I keep saying this, I really cannot wait for us to get leaders that are woke, because that is what we need, woke leaders. When we are able to get woke leaders, I think majority of our problems are going to be sorted out, because it looks like some of the African leaders are still sleeping. They are not woke, and not until then we're still going to be going going round in circle. And I hope that we are able to figure out the people that is biting us and the people that are leeching on us, and set them aside in order for us to grow and expand, because this is all we need. We need to grow as a continent and all that. Grow, expand, and achieve what we are supposed to achieve. This is all I got to say. See you all in my next video. Bye for now.